Let me try filming this again since I just did it with the mic turned off. Yeah. Solo filming. That's what happens. So, what are Amish drivers? What are drivers? Drivers are basically taxi drivers for Amish people. When an Amish person needs to go somewhere that's too far for their horse, or they want it to be more convenient, they will call a driver up, a non-Amish person who drives a car or a van, and ask them and pay them to take them places. I recently had a viewer email me. She is a driver for Amish people, and they seem to be kind of taking advantage of her in ways. Like, they will pay her after they've brought her home, and then they want her to drop this off at so-and-so's place, or run over here and do this, or whatever. So, you know, she was wondering if they do it intentionally or unintentionally. And so I will get into a little bit of that. Obviously, I don't know the people that she's driving around, so I can't say for sure. And you can't jumble them all and put them all in the same box, saying they're all doing it intentionally or not. So let's get into that, and then I have a little tip for you drivers at the end of the video. When she emailed me, she sort of struck a nerve in me, because when I entered the Rumspringa stage page of my life, I got a car and I drove for the next 12 years. I was a little bit older when I joined the church again. So the whole time, you know, I worked at Jayco, and I would pick people up on my way to work, and I would drop them off on the way home, and then some of them asked me for a ride after, you know, people I knew, friends, whatever, asked me for a ride after work. So I spent a lot of my evenings driving Amish people around, and I did it more as a friend, not as a job, as you drivers are doing. It's your living, but. This might not make sense to you guys, but some of you guys. So in our community, Amish people, or when youth turned 16 and got their driver's license, they were still allowed to live at home and have a car, because they hadn't been baptized into the Amish church. They weren't a member. They didn't have to follow those rules. And the parents there didn't want to kick them out, right? They would rather have... If their son got a car, they would rather have him at home where they can still love him, rather than kicking him out into the world and refusing to have anything to do with him. So that's what our community was like. There's tons of youth driving cars, and the Amish people are allowed to ride with them. So, like I said, I would drive people around in the evenings, and then they would pay me, and it wasn't enough. But that was my fault, because I didn't have a backbone. I never told them how much I need. They just threw me money, I guess. So, but it did get aggravating a lot, because for example, I had a guy that I would take to work and home, and he would ask me, "Hey, this evening, can you take my family to my brother's house?" Which might have been 15 miles away or so. So in my mind, well, yeah, I'll pick him up. I'll take him over there, and then when they're done in the evening, I'll go pick him up and bring him home, which was fine. I didn't have anything else to do. However, this is usually how that went. I would go pick him up, and we'd be driving down the road towards his brother's house, and then he would say, "Well, hey, can we just stop at the bank really quick? I just need to stop at the bank." I'm like, okay, I can do that. It's not that far out of the way. So we would stop at the bank, and then he would get back in the car and be like, "Hey, can we just stop at the hardware? I just need to grab some at the hardware really quick." So, okay, we'll stop at the hardware. And then once he was done there, he was like, "Okay, I just need to go stop at the grocery store, and then we can head over to my brother's house, ready to go." So we would stop there. And that wasted another 45 minutes of my day that I hadn't planned on, that he hadn't let me know about, right? If he had told me about it when he asked me if I could take him, then it would have been different. But he waited until I had already picked him up. So I was already, so that aggravated me quite a bit because in my eyes that wasn't 100% honest. And so they do that stuff. Not all of them. Not all of them. There's a lot of good guys out there. And another thing is, I started. Sometimes I would hear Amish people talk about how drivers charge so much. They're so expensive, and it would make me mad. It would frustrate me because I was thinking, well, if you don't like it, get your own car. That's simple. You chose this lifestyle. Now deal with it. And they have to make a living too. It's like the drivers have to make a living too. But I don't think Amish people understand what all goes into that. So yeah, they know there's the cost of the car and the gas, right? But that might be as far as they go. Like they don't think about the maintenance. They don't think about insurance. They don't think about the taxes on it. They don't think about the time it takes for you to drive from your house to their house to Walmart, back to their house, back to your house, and how it takes your whole evening. So I guess I apologize on their behalf for being that. I don't know. Maybe some of them do realize it and they don't care. But from their perspective, when you take them to Walmart to go grocery shopping and you charge them $80, as you should, right? It takes money to get there, and then you have to sit there and wait on them. So you should be charging them an hourly rate. So when they have a $200 grocery bill and then you charge them $80 for taking them, that's $280 for $200 worth of stuff, right? To them, that's a lot of money and it's expensive. Well, of course, but that's just they've got to realize that's just the consequences of their choices. And another thing they might not view correctly, like from their point of view, when that person asked me to just swing by the bank and then swing by the hardware store and then swing by the grocery store, it was a lot quicker if he did it with me, right? If I took him, because it was just a couple miles out of the way. We do it really quickly, and then it 45 minutes total maybe with including all of his shopping. Well, if I didn't do that for him, then he would have had to the next day hitch up his horse, go get his horse, feed him some grain, put the harness on him, hitch him in the buggy, make that 45-minute trip to town, do all his shopping, which would still take 45 minutes, and then another 45-minute trip home. So it's a what is that? I don't know, a couple hour process versus 45 minutes of me just taking him places, So that's kind of probably the way they're viewing it, is it's just so much easier for you to do all those little extra things for them. I'm not making excuses here for them, because they definitely should not be doing that. They should be trying to see it from your side, and I know some do. I know some. There's Amish people aren't dumb, right? So some of them might intentionally be taking advantage of you. Some of them might not. If you are an Amish driver, just make sure that you're covered, that you're covering your costs, your time, because you have to. And if you take a family somewhere, you bring them home and they pay and then ask you to do something extra for them, just tell them it's $5 extra, it's $10 extra. I think they'll understand. If they get mad, then you probably don't want to be driving around anyway, right? If they get mad, then let them get mad. They can find somebody else. But yeah, just make sure you're covered. And another thing, if you're not Amish and you want to get to know Amish people more, that's one way to get to know them. You know, do that stuff for them, but be very careful because they will take advantage of you. They will use you for your convenience, unintentionally, intentionally, depends on the person. So I don't want to give Amish people a bad rap. Not all of them complained about the prices. I just heard some that irritated me. And maybe this will give you a little bit of insight on their viewpoint. I think their viewpoint's wrong, but from their point of view, you might understand where they're coming from. But yeah, so just make sure that you're covered. So if you are an Amish driver, here's a little tip. I know they're not supposed to listen to the radio. I know that's kind of one of their beliefs. They don't have radios at home. But most of them will not have a problem with you turning the radio on in their van while you're driving them places. As long as you keep it with country, gospel, that type of music. And if the kids are rowdy, you can turn that music up a little bit, and it usually quiets them down because they're like, ooh, music, and they want to listen because they don't get it every day, right? I know you don't want to disrespect them, so the way to do it is if an Amish family climbs into your car, don't ask them, hey, do you guys want to listen to music? Because most likely they'll probably say no because they have to uphold their beliefs, right? But if you ask them, do you mind if I listen to a little bit of music? They'll probably say, no, we don't mind. And you can turn it on. Just the way you word things, the way you go about that. They're going to love it. They're going to like it. They like it just as much as anybody else, probably more so. I shared this in another video, but when we had relatives living in Napanee, and my dad would have to go get a driver to take us over there. So he would go to the phone booth and call for a driver, try to find a driver to take us. And when he'd come back, we'd always come running like, who'd you get? Who'd you get? You know, hoping that it's Henry. Henry no longer lives, but he had a conversion van that I think with the curtains and stuff. And it was an old early 90s van. It was new back then. So, but he always had country music going, and we would fight for the spots next to the speakers. And there would always be heads. We'd be fighting 3 or 4 heads right there next to the speaker, trying to listen to get as much of that music as we can. He was good friends with my dad, and that was fine. And it's not, you're fine. Turn on the radio. So that was a little memory as an Amish kid that I had of drivers. We always hated the ones that didn't have music because it was a kind of a boring ride. Hopefully that helps any of you drivers listening to kind of understand where they're coming from. I get it. It's frustrating. Like I said, it struck a nerve because there's times I got mad, not mad, but I got very frustrated, and that was probably one of the questions that I had, the things I questioned that kind of helped bring me out of that community. Because it's just, if you have a problem with the prices, you think they're charging too much, then get your own car. It's that simple. So anyway, thanks for watching. We sure do appreciate it. And just make sure you hit the like button, help me out, subscribe, and we will continue praying for you guys. We'll see you next time.